Alright, hi everybody, I'm Earl Sumawang, your Drive Engagement Coordinator and your Success Coach for Oral Communication. Hop in, let me take you to a great academic tour. But before we dig right into the discussion of our topic, here are the three things that you have to remember as an autonomous learner. The first one is note taking. For lectures, note taking is essential. While some of you may think this distracts you from listening well, research says otherwise. Taking notes actually helps you focus and follow your teacher's train of thought. The discipline also trains you to remember and to think better. You are expected to demonstrate academic excellence and intellectual honesty in all your work. iAcademy has strict rules on intellectual dishonesty. So anyone found guilty of plagiarism can be automatically suspended for at least 1 year or expelled outright depending on the gravity of the case. So make sure that you do all the requirements on your own. All the materials lifted from secondary sources must be cited properly. Lastly, you guys are autonomous learners. It means that this educational program will be learner-centered. You will be making all the critical decisions such as when, where, and how to study. On one hand, you are given much flexibility. On the other hand, the burden of learning lies mostly on your shoulders. So how much you will get out of this course depends on you. And in case you learn much, you deserve all the credit, not your success coaches. But this does not mean though that learning should be an individual activity. Alright, I think you guys are ready, so let's get started right away with this topic. Welcome to Oral Communication Starter Pack, your Mile 1 throughout the course of the whole year. Alright, but before we get started right away with discussing all the topics in the Mile 1, I want you all guys to meet our friend right here, Steve. So he is your tour guide, your virtual pal, and your support system. So here are the topics for the Mile 1. We have listening, communication, its importance and definition. We also have objectives of communication, the 7 C's in effective communication, and the communication process. Along the way, I'll be showing you videos, and at the last part of our topic or our discussion is an activity. Imagine what the world would be like if no one listens. What do you think will happen? They say that the most basic and powerful way to connect to another person is to listen. Perhaps the most important thing that we ever give to each other is our attention. In our discussion, we believe that communication is not just speaking. Arguably, the most important part of the process is listening. One of the biggest sources of communication breakdown is misunderstanding what you heard. Needless to say, the cost of communication breakdown is so high. We get frustrated, we also have some missed opportunities, and even broken relationships just by misunderstanding what you heard. Listening effectively is so important that companies invest in training their employees to listen. As a student, your academic success depends on how well you listen, how well you understand, how well you take down notes, to interpret things, and to critique what you heard. Apart from this, listening skills are important since we spend more time listening than speaking. A wise man, the Dalai Lama, said it best: when you talk, you are only repeating what you know, but when you listen, you learn something new. But listening takes more than just hearing sounds and decoding them. It involves focusing not just on what is said, but how it is said and why, as well as what is left unsaid. It is the ability to select what is important from what is mere rambling. and to interpret accurately both verbal and nonverbal signals. It means you just have to pay attention. As students, you need to develop effective listening strategies since much of what you will learn in this academic program is from listening, not just from your success coach, but also from your peers. Learn to listen to central facts, to main ideas, and organizational patterns. Listening is a skill that can be learned. Although listening is often ignored, it takes up the greatest amount of time in the study of the four skills of communication. We have listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Listening, like any other skill, has to be practiced because we listen every day and we think we know how to do it. Yet, like any other skills, we can learn to do it better and continue to improve our listening skills throughout our lives. We say that communication is the bloodline of the society. There would be no society if there is no communication. Even in the animal kingdom, communication is very vital to their survival. In almost all endeavors, communication plays an important role. Communication is basic to success in whatever field of interest you are in. Proper communication makes business a success. Your ability to say what you say, to say what you feel, to express your ideas, to persuade others to believe in you, and even to convince them to react or respond to you are all factors to a successful career. All things being equal, a person who can effectively communicate usually has an edge. Communication thus helps understand people better. It removes misunderstanding, and it creates clarity of thoughts and expressions and educate people. Any student should develop an appreciation of the importance of communication. In one's daily activity as a step towards better communication, it should be recognized that communication does not refer only to public addresses. Although such speaking is important, the person spends more time communicating in less formal speaking situations. In our daily affairs, we exchange ideas with others using our common language so that we can come up with our objective of sharing. It is impossible for us to achieve our target without communication. This method of sharing may consist of business transaction, visiting a doctor, giving directions, asking information, participating in class discussion, or conversing in a meeting or a party. Taking these situations for granted as least important is a great mistake. It is a breakdown that can result in a better argument. To be a good speaker is not easy to achieve. It takes a long period before one can develop himself to be a good and fluent speaker. Though it is true that speakers are born, one cannot get away cultivating his or her potentials before these can be fully developed. But whether a speaker is born or made, everyone should be well informed of the importance of good speaking and how one can be a good speaker. Our major occupation this time is to help the country produce and distribute information. The importance of communication then can be viewed through participating in building a stable condition of the country. The country's economy can no longer be understood. People will remain innocent unless they will not be informed why it happened and how to get away from it. The solution to the problems of why and how can be best solved through effective communication. Our needs for communication are important in the most areas of our lives. From a psychological point of view, our ability to communicate is important in realizing our goals, in the acceptance and expression of one's own personality, and in the adjustment to the society. Communication, therefore, contributes to social growth and psychological stability by enabling individuals to know ideas and feelings, proclaim their existence and to learn to adjust to the environment and society. People communicate because of varied reasons. It could be personal, social, or utilitarian. From the different theories which were held by authorities, three of these are widely supported. These are in consonance with the fundamental objectives of communication. First in our list is we speak for self-expression. Usually, we have the desire to attract attention. Hence, we have to express ourselves through words. Sometimes, we want to manifest our extreme emotional states, and there are times too that we want to tell others what we believe to be right or wrong. In some, when we speak, we are manifesting outwardly the inner workings of our minds. We are sharing our beliefs, ideas, feelings, and emotions. Next in our list is we speak to communicate. Man talks because he is by nature a social being. He is not satisfied talking alone, right? He needs a companion to share what he has in mind. In short, we communicate to be able to explain processes, objects, or situations to another person as it is useful to hear them explained. The third one is we speak to control human behavior. Our ability to communicate is a weapon by which human beings can be controlled. It is a substitute for physical force, which is demonstrated by our wish to argue or to persuade. It is a means by which the diverse activities of men are coordinated with each other for the attainment of a common or reciprocal end. In conclusion, men do not speak simply to relieve their feelings or to air their views, but to awaken a response in their fellows and to influence their attitudes, their deeds, their preferences, and their actions. The 7 C's of an Effective Communication. In their pioneer book, Effective Public Relations, Professors Broom, Cutlip, and Senner in the year 2012 listed the 7 C's of an effective communication. This list is widely used today, especially in public relations and advertising. First in our list is completeness. Complete communication is essential to the quality of the communication process in general. Communication should include everything that the receiver needs to hear from the speaker for him to be able to respond, to react, or to evaluate properly. Next, conciseness. Conciseness does not mean keeping the message short, but making it direct or straight to the point. Insignificant or redundant information should be eliminated from the communication that will be sent to the recipient. Next is consideration. To be effective, the speaker should always consider relevant information about his or her receiver, such as mood, background, race, preferences, education, status, and needs. By doing so, he or she can easily build rapport with the audience. Next is concreteness. Effective communication happens when the message is concrete and supported by facts, figures, and real-life examples and situations. In this case, the receiver is more connected to the message conveyed. Next is courtesy. The speaker shows courtesy in communication by respecting the culture, values, and beliefs of his or her receivers. Being courteous all the time creates a positive impact on the audience. Next in our list is clearness. Clearness in communication implies the use of simple and specific words to express ideas. It is also achieved when the speaker focuses only on a single objective in his or her communication ability so as not to confuse the audience or the receiver. The last in our list is correctness. Correctness in grammar eliminates negative impact on the audience and it increases the credibility and effectiveness of the message. Alright, we are now in the last part of our topic in Mile 1. Welcome to the communication process. The communication process begins with the formulation of an idea of the speaker. He then encodes ideas into language to be transmitted through audible and visible symbols to the receiver. As the receiver receives the message, he decodes them and may physically or verbally respond to the speaker. The process of communication involves several stages. The first stage in the process is thinking. This stage starts with the birth of an idea of the speaker. A speaker who does not have many ideas about a chosen subject should not have the courage of facing the audience. He should exactly know what he wants to convey, otherwise, he will be confused and will become the laughingstock of the audience. The next stage is symbolizing. After the speaker has decided what idea he has to share to the public or to the audience, he is then ready to communicate orally through the use of words. The words chosen should be appropriate for the idea to be clearly understood by his listeners. A working knowledge of the mastery of the language by the speaker is really required. He should know how to share his thoughts and his feelings in the most effective way. It is to be noted that an inadequate speaking vocabulary can cause a breakdown in the communication. And to do away with this fear, the speaker should select a language easy for him to use and for the listener to understand. Third in our list is expressing. Having decided on what words to use, the speaker is now ready to express his ideas in an audible speech using appropriate gestures. A clear, good voice, and physical delivery are requirements for expressing the speaker's ideas. Reciting in the fourth is transmitting. The speaker's ideas and feelings are transmitted into the ears and the eyes of the listeners. They are represented by atmosphere disturbances in the form of sound and light waves which move away from the speaker to the ears and the eyes of the listeners. The proximity of the speaker to the audience and the disturbances within the surroundings may interfere in the transmission of the speaker's ideas and feelings. Next in our list is receiving. As the sound waves that carry the ideas of the speaker reach the ears of the listeners, a series of movements takes place. Neural impulses are sent to the brain. The light waves that strike the eyes of the listeners are converted to the brain. The effects of the ears and eyes cause faulty reception. The sixth stage is decoding. This stage will lead the listeners to understand what the speaker wants to convey. Understanding takes place only upon receiving the ideas of the speaker through the voice with supplementary gestures. The voice and gestures are symbols that facilitate the comprehension of the listener. If the listener's vocabulary is different from the language used by the speaker, then it becomes complex. Both the speaker and the listener cannot come up with a common idea. Our seventh stage is reaction or feedback. It is a normal situation to see listeners giving responses to what they hear from the speakers. The listener's failure to give responses may hinder the speaker from giving feedback on the reactions. Reactions may be in the form of applause, boredom, hissing, yawn, doubtful look, and so on. The last stage is monitoring. The speaker should be sensitive in giving the needs of his audience. This stage should not be disregarded because it is only through monitoring that the speaker determines if comprehension takes place. The speaker should also look into the kinds of reactions of the listeners so he could give the necessary and appropriate alternatives on how he could make his audience understand his message. I think you guys are ready for an assessment. Students under oral communication class are tasked to answer this question. There have been talks about paperless society. What are the pros and cons of this proposal from the developed countries in considering the level of accessibility and the communication strength of the Philippines? Do you think we will ever reach that stage? Why or why not? Rules in responding to other works. You should pose one contribution and three replies to the entries of your classmates. You may support, generate, or debunk your classmates' content. You may also ask questions or clarifications regarding their content. No casual or slang words. Students are required to manifest courtesy and respect to their classmates, especially when argument is going on track.